Riddy-did-did-do. Welcome to the program. If you're watching the recording, check the timestamps in the description to see when we actually start, because I'm going to hang out here for a few moments and let some folks join us live. So, relax. Welcome, Jennifer. Welcome, SJ. Actually, that's better. Hi, Karen. This might be a really, really good session today. It might be. I guess that also means it might be terrible. Well, I wonder if we should just jump into it. Okay, I'm going to take my little minute or two of stillness and allow myself to be present. And then I will do the show. And we'll just get right into it. Yep. Okay. Welcome, Mira. Welcome, Rima. Welcome, Persia. All right. Let's do the stillness. Welcome, Rose. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the program. This is Holding Space for Love to Be Seen. My name is Tiger Singleton. We're going to hang out here for about an hour and dive into the subject at hand, which today is called Spiritual Enlightenment and the Mindset Shift from Hell to Heaven. And as always, consistently, I take some time Monday morning, which was yesterday, and I write about this topic. I try to communicate some insight and wisdom that you might find practical and applicable. So hopefully you had a chance to read that. If not, then figure out how to get a hold of that email because it's awesome. There's so many things I'd love to speak about in this topic. I think I'm going to go over a little bit in what I wrote yesterday, but I'm just going to run my mouth for a little while, 35, 40 minutes, and then we can engage with the live audience and ask some questions if you guys want to do that. And then we will wrap up with a super short and sweet guided meditation. And then that'll be a wrap. And then we'll do it next week. Okay. Spiritual enlightenment and the mindset shift from hell to heaven. Where do we want to start? My goodness. Let's start here. I have a question for you. Look at your human struggle. Look at the difference between where you are and where you'd like to be. And I want you to ask yourself a very sincere question, which is, with the limitation that I experience, how much of that is a result of my mindset versus legitimate circumstance? How much of that struggle, how much of that distance between where I am and where I'd like to be is because of my mindset as opposed to circumstance? Let me give you a clue. The more years you have in this experience of being human, especially if those years consist of a sincere openness to be honest with yourself, what you recognize more and more is that it has a lot less to do with circumstances and a whole hell of a lot more to do with mindset. Because regardless of the circumstance you might encounter, the obstacle, the challenge, what gets you through those things, what allows you to move through gracefully and actually learn something that's valuable, is your mindset going into it. And I don't care if you're wanting to build a business, wanting to improve a relationship. There's so much to be said about developing a mindset that is open to learn and grow. Maybe a mindset of humility as well, as opposed to a mindset that thinks you already know, a mindset that believes your blameful projections, a mindset that sees yourself as disadvantaged. I mean, my goodness, just look at this. It's really amazing, because here we are as human beings, and in this moment right now, whether you realize it or not, you have a narrative playing out. And this narrative is a mindset. It's a particular way that you look at yourself, and then that becomes a filter through which you look at the world. And look at how you see yourself and how you see the world determines how you move through the world. So often And so easily we can buy into the assumption that my difficulty is because of what is, rather than my difficulty is stemming from how I see what is. And one of the most classic quotes that point to this is, if you think you can, then you can. And if you think you can't, well, you can't. And even if you think you can and you can't, and you try and you put your best foot forward, you learn a lot, which helps you to improve next time around. So you're making progress in some regard. Likewise, if you think you can't and you don't even try, then you don't learn anything at all. This is the kind of stuff we're going to be diving into. Also, how this pertains to the concept of spiritual enlightenment, which I'm a fan of. And then also looking at the comparison between the concept of heaven and hell. It's a lot to dive into, and I'm super curious to see how much we will be able to explore. But let me read the opening line of this writing that I sent out yesterday. A shift in perspective can make the difference between floating up into heaven or suffering in the dungeons of hell. Similarly, shifts in perspective can make the difference between a beautiful relationship and a contentious one, a joyful career path and a stressful career path, a healthy lifestyle and a constant battle that fears sickness, a positive outlook versus a negative and pessimistic outlook, and on and on. Just look at that. In all of these examples that I gave, which are many different areas of our lives, we have to ask ourselves, what are you experiencing? Are you experiencing the relationship, or are you experiencing the mindset you have about the relationship? Are you experiencing your career path, or are you experiencing what you think it means about you, your mindset? Where else can you explore the difference and explore where it seems like you're a victim of circumstance, where something is against you, and to ask yourself, am I just seeing it that way? Like, is it really that way? And the beauty of this is that it's not. It's not one way or the other. The question is how you see it. You see, this is the thing. It's like the experience isn't good and it's not bad. It just is. However, your experience of it, what it becomes, is what you turn it into through the way that you're looking at it. This is the classic problem or opportunity. When you encounter difficulty in your relationship, is this a problem or is this an opportunity? When you're faced with a tough decision about your career path, is this a problem or is this an opportunity? If you're faced with some expression of illness, is this a problem or is it an opportunity that says, hey, I got to take better care of myself? You see, and notice that, like, how you perceive it creates the difference between heaven and hell very clearly. You can perceive it through a lens of hell, or you can perceive it through the lens of heaven. And the difference between the two is, this is against me, which is hell, or this is for me, which is heaven, which is, this is here to help me wake up. This is here to help me see more of what's real and true. This has helped me to improve my relationship with myself. Or it's the opposite. And as you live your life, things are going to happen. Energy is going to move. Things are going to take on different forms, which is essentially saying things are going to change. Now, two people can effectively go through the same path, even though that's not really possible, but let's just say for the sake of clarity, two people can go through the same path, and one person could experience heaven along that path, and another person can experience hell along that path. And if you can see that, you can see it's not about the experience. One person might go through a traumatic difficulty that takes years and years and years, but yet their mindset through it allows them to learn a lot. It allows them to build a deeper relationship with life. It allows them to see things they didn't see before. somehow it opens up an enormous amount of love, compassion, and freedom. Likewise, someone goes through the same experience and it steals all of their enthusiasm for being alive. Like being alive no longer makes sense anymore, but yet it's the same experience. In fact, there's a great book on this, which is called A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And he wrote about his experience in the concentration camps during the whole Nazi phenomenon. And he just illustrated how his experience transformed, where he was encountering something that seemed like he had every excuse to not enjoy this, every excuse to suffer and complain, every excuse to be resentful. But he discovered a freedom in that experience that exposed something profound, and subsequently wrote a book about it and impacted millions of people's lives. And so he turned an experience into an experience that exposed an immensity of love. And yeah, shit happens. Like people trying to take over the world. Get used to it. It's not going away. But you get my point. This is the invitation of this inquiry, which is to take a moment, you and I here together, and get really honest about the experience that we're having, to get so honest to the degree where the only option we have left is to evaluate our mindset and let go of the world, let go of circumstance, let go of every excuse we have as to why the world is against us, and be open to seeing the real opportunity we have to move through our current difficulty, our current struggle, and see the opportunity. Because those opportunities are here to help you grow. Let's speak a moment about spiritual enlightenment. And I'm going to read a little section of what I wrote here. Spiritual enlightenment is the transformation of consciousness that shifts perception from seeing separation, hell, to recognizing the inseparable nature of all that exists, leading towards a perception of wholeness, heaven. Hell, separation, is the lie. Heaven, wholeness, is the truth. The lie creates suffering. The truth brings wellness in all areas. Okay. Let's take a breath. I want to say something. One of the major difficulties we have as human beings is our propensity to believe our stories about things rather than seeing the practical application. And one of the great illustrations of this, which I feel slightly unprepared to talk about because it's a big subject, but I'm just going to ramble a little bit. That's the experience of religion. And for the sake of illustration, let's say there are 10 different religions that all have their different stories about that religion. And then every one of those religions thinks that their religion is the right religion, which is essentially saying everyone thinks that their story is the right story. And what is failed to be seen is that if you look at those stories within the 10 different religions, you see that all the stories are pointing to the same thing. In some way, it's delivering the same message, but it's telling a different story in the message. And the misunderstanding or the assumption is that the truth is found in the story rather than the truth is found in the message. Meaning, what's the message pointing toward? Case in point, like the concept of heaven and hell. I'm using these concepts as illustrations that attempt to show us a deeper reality about our human experience. As such, that your internal experience on this earth as a human being is directly influenced by your perception, by what you see, by the stories you tell, by your projections of meaning. Therefore, if you are not seeing reality clearly, which is to say you're seeing a lie, which is also to say you're seeing yourself in a way that's less than, not seeing your worth and value, not seeing the miracle of what you are. The subsequent result of that is suffering, which is illustrated as hell. Now, this hell isn't given to you through some external influence. It's created from the inside based on what you see. And we could have a long discourse about how the Bible attempts to make this clear, but it's been misunderstood and misinterpreted. But essentially, the invitation is to recognize your capacity and your connection with life to create a reality that is a reflection of what you desire, which we'll call heaven. And then it also invites you to see the opposite of that is your creation as well, essentially saying it's coming from inside of you. Okay, that was a quick summary. But we get lost in these stories and we miss the underlying opportunity and the message. Same with the concept of spiritual enlightenment. We want to turn it into some sort of external phenomenon, right? Some sort of external prize that exists in the future, something you would attain, rather than looking at the principles that it's pointing to and seeing how it applies to the practicality of your everyday life. And in the spirit of that, spiritual enlightenment, maybe we'll call it a moment of enlightenment, is simply seeing reality more clearly. And in seeing reality more clearly, the spiritual prize, so to speak, is to connect with more love, compassion, and freedom. That's the real superpower. That's the real gift. That's really what we're looking for in our journey of being a human being. We are looking for an access point to transform our experience, which is really our inner experience. Because what is your experience in this life if it's not your inner experience of life? As such, if your inner experience of life isn't in check, it matters not what your external experience is. It's just irrelevant. Like, you can think the prize is getting $1 billion, but if you're still hating yourself and not seeing reality clearly, that $1 billion only amplifies it, only makes it worse. And so that's the invitation, spiritually speaking, to let go of the world. Stop thinking that if only you got X, Y, Z, then it would fix the inside. It just does not work that way. And the beauty of this is, as you bring healing to the inside, you're now able to enjoy the things on the outside. As such, you can go on a journey that says, hey, I want to playfully make $1 billion, but ultimately you understand that it's irrelevant. It's the journey that you're going to enjoy. It's your genuine interest in the process, in the learning, that is the prize. But the outcome of it isn't going to get you what you really want. Same with wanting some particular form of relationship. We could say, oh, I would really enjoy the experience of sharing what I am with another human being and growing through that process. As opposed to, I'm going to find the perfect human being and it's going to fix my inside. How's that going? We know it doesn't work. And so this is why there's such a priority in all of these spiritual and religious traditions to get you to connect with something that's more real and true, something more authentic about what you are, while letting go of the things in the world. It's not suggesting to disregard the things in the world. It's more of an opportunity to have a better relationship with the things in the world, which is almost like saying the landscape in life transforms from a prison sentence into a playground. It transforms from a place where what I want is being withheld from me to a place where I already have what I want, and now I'm here to enjoy the experience of being human. And you see, again, those are two different mindsets as well, not having anything to do with what does or doesn't happen. The opportunity is to realize that, which is also to see more clearly, to see the truth of what you are, that your life is an opportunity to grow. Your life is an opportunity to discover something beautiful within what you are, and then the opportunity to share that beauty, which is the playground, as opposed to what I want is somewhere out there and someone's withholding it from me, therefore everyone's a bastard. That's a completely different experience. Okay. The concept of heaven and hell, again, as an illustration, we can look at the concept of heaven as a reflection of wholeness, which is also illustrated as a feeling that nothing is missing. All is well. In contrast to the experience of hell, which is separation, which is that painful sensation that something is missing, which is also like saying what I am is incomplete, what I am is unwhole. This can also be said as the experience of feeling unloved, like you're unworthy. That is at the core of suffering, that I'm not enough. That is hell, and that is to perceive separation. That is also a mindset. It sees myself as missing something vital to my worth and value, which is also saying in a roundabout sort of way that I'm missing the truth of what I am. I don't see the truth of what I am. Like I said, the experience of perceiving more of what's true is intimately intertwined with seeing the truth of what you are, which is to not be missing anything. And so you perceive yourself as whole and complete. And through that mindset, through that perception, your experience becomes one of wholeness, which resembles some form of heaven. You know what's funny? Because again, right, like as I'm talking about these things, granted, I'm speaking to a particular audience that's interested in this subject. So in some regard, you're with me. But I could be speaking this to a completely disinterested audience, and they have no clue what I'm talking about, right? It's just completely over their head, and it sounds like absolute nonsense. In the same way, I could tell a religious story that resonates with a particular group of people and exposes insight and opens up more love, compassion, and freedom. And I could tell somebody from a different background the same story, and it goes over their head. It sounds like nonsense. You see, the power isn't the words. It's not the story. The power is what's being exposed inside of you. And so the particular words are attempting to elicit some sort of inner discovery. And so when heaven is described as a place you go where everyone has their own mansions and we're sitting on clouds holding hands, singing Kumbaya, that's not trying to articulate what it really is. That's trying to paint a picture that helps you see the potential of something, right? Like if I try and share my experience with you of what it's like to see reality more clearly, to not be afraid and to see a deeper truth in life, I might say, you know, it's like the streets are paved in gold, right? You see, that's trying to show you the value and the benefit. It's trying to illustrate it. But the last thing I want you to do is think that when you wake up, then the streets will be paved in gold. That's not the real thing. I'm just trying to illustrate it. So that's the same thing with all the things that I share and all the wisdom being shared throughout millennia, is that these are all stories being told, attempting to get you to see something that can actually be defined with words, as the same sentence is going to touch people in a different way. And so the concept of heaven and hell, it's not talking about a reality of something as described. It's painting a picture of a possibility that resembles either what you crave or what you fear. And so we can say what you crave is heaven, wholeness. What you fear is hell and separation. And for me, this brings such a profound simplicity to the whole journey, so that we don't have to search for the right story. We don't have to search for the right narrative. Like, which narrative is the true narrative? Not seeing that all a narrative is a product of imagination. It's not the real thing. The real thing is going to be found within what you are, which is also to say within your capacity to see yourself, others, in life more clearly, which is a great invitation to be still, take a step back, and question what you think is happening. Question your mindset. And to ask yourself, is this actually true? Like, I'm believing something, and what I'm believing says that I can't move forward in love. What I'm believing says I'm not free. What I'm believing says I don't have opportunity. What I'm believing is I don't have resources, right? I'm believing all of these things, and therefore it's limiting my experience and options in life. Wouldn't it be wise to question those beliefs? Wouldn't it be wise to question that mindset? Because the more you do, you start to realize, holy shit, I've actually got a lot more opportunity. I've actually have a lot more resources. I actually have a lot more capability that I'm giving myself credit for, which again transforms the playground. It's like it's a transformation from a serious life to a playful life, which again are just two different mindsets. Again, reading from my writing from yesterday, spiritual enlightenment is the macro shift, the big shift between heaven and hell, salvation and damnation. Before this big shift, there are 1,000 micro shifts, smaller shifts that help us reach the big shift. When people come to me and ask for help in making a big shift towards spiritual enlightenment, my response is to inquire about the small shifts they're making in their everyday lives. This is where the real work is. And it's the real work that people desperately want to avoid. They say, help me get to the end. And I respond with, I can only help you on the journey. I cannot help you escape your life, but I can help you see your life with brand new eyes, so you can see the gifts and opportunities you haven't yet seen. This points towards a reevaluation of your everyday experiences. To acknowledge that part of yourself that's waiting for a big shift, right? Maybe you have some fantasy that something's going to happen and it will change everything. And people often do this with spirituality. They say, oh, if only I wake up, if only I become enlightened, if only Jesus comes back, if only the aliens arrived, if only XYZ. And as we're waiting and waiting and waiting, we're not addressing the real opportunity we have, which is also to connect with the real power we have. Because in our waiting and waiting and waiting, we're giving our power to that thing that we're waiting for, which is to completely give your power away. You become a prisoner to that thing you're waiting for, while all the time you've been waiting within you is an extraordinary power to reclaim your personal sovereignty and start transforming your experience regardless of where you are in your life. Your everyday mindset shifts, there's 1,000 of them. These are very small opportunities to see how you see and make minor, small, incremental adjustments. And if you make these minor, small, incremental adjustments every day, then over time, it starts to build up in an extraordinary way. And I'm not necessarily giving you another project to do. What I'm doing is trying to illustrate a different approach to life and being human, as opposed to an approach that's either waiting or an approach that feels completely victimized by a world that's not actually out there, but rather it's a world being created from behind your eyes. So what I invite is for you to bring some more presence to your everyday life and see that your everyday life is the opportunity. Where you are is the opportunity. The job you're in is the opportunity. The relationship you're in is the opportunity. The struggles you have is the opportunity. Now, again, see the monumental mind shift in just this. Because easily someone can look at their life, they can look at their struggles, they can look at their patterns, they can look at their job, they can look at their relationships, and they can see that all of these things are in the way. All of these things don't serve. Therefore, I ignore them and I wait for something else to change. In contrast, there's a different mindset, which is also to see things more clearly. That all of these things that I'm talking about are actually the perfect opportunity for me to learn and grow. Now, what happens here in that shift? You start seeing these things in a different way. If you see them as problems that should not be there, then you're not willing to look at them. In fact, you push them away, you hide from them, you distract yourself from them. And in hiding from them, you know what you don't see? What they want to teach you. As you hide from them, you're not available for the lesson. And I can tell you that whatever is showing up in your life, it's showing up as an opportunity to teach you how to move beyond it. If you keep experiencing the same type of shitty relationship, the reason you keep experiencing that same type of shitty relationship is to learn how to create a better relationship. Now, for the one who doesn't want to see that and just blames the other person, blames the relationship, then they leave those relationships and they keep finding the same types of relationships. There's not a learning that's happening. Or they stay in the same shitty relationship and just keep experiencing a shitty relationship, waiting for it to change. There's no learning. This is only possible as if you see yourself as a victim to the experience rather than one who is consciously participating in the creation of this. And what I mean by that is coming back to the question of, am I experiencing this relationship or am I experiencing what I'm turning it into through my mindset, through my perception? The more you think you're experiencing something on the outside of what you are, the more the thing on the outside has power over you. you're giving your power away. But the more you see that you're experiencing your creation, you're experiencing your mindset, that's inside of you. It's like, oh, I can deal with that. I have direct influence over how I see, over the stories I tell, over the mind nonsense that I believe in. I can work with that. And what's beautiful about this is because you can work with that, and because that's the dominant influence in your experience, then you can dramatically transform your experience, right? If your experience was dictated by the outside, you wouldn't have much power to transform your experience because you'd be waiting for that other thing to change. And this is what most people are doing, is they're waiting for the outside to change, not realizing that the outside doesn't have any power over you. All the power comes from the inside. See that the kingdom of heaven is on the inside of what you are. Something like that. Something to that effect. Okay. Let me see what else is on my sheet. The human journey is a journey of seeing things more clearly, seeing more of what is true, wholeness, while releasing what is not true, separation. Based on my experience, the depth of heaven I experience in all areas of my life, personal, relationships, and business, is limited only by my own limiting beliefs or incorrect perceptions. That's such a powerful statement. I have to really look at the difference between what I think is happening, what is really happening. I have to look at where I'm giving my power away. I have to get in touch with what is real and true and release my grip on the lie. Sometimes it's super easy. Sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes it's embarrassingly humbling. Sometimes it's very scary. And sometimes it may be a combination of them all or something in between. But you know what the conclusion is, regardless of the level of difficulty, is it's always worth it. It's always worth it to go on that journey of deep self-honesty and see what the real issue is. And to release the thing that I'm blaming as the issue. And you know what? This is where you get a lot of your power back, which is kind of funny because it's a bit of a spiritual and religious pointer that we might call forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't something that happens because you just decide to forgive someone. Forgiveness is something that happens because you see what's true. The way that I'm going to illustrate this is with a very simple example, but I'm hoping this simple example might expand into the complexity of your life that might have difficulty forgiving. If I have plans to go outside and play in the sunshine, and I'm excited about that, and it starts raining outside, if I'm disturbed by not getting my outcome, right? Like I'm bothered emotionally, it's so easy to blame the rain for my suffering, right? It's like, oh, I was fine, everything was going good, and then something changed and it started raining. And because it changed and it started raining, now I'm suffering. So my conclusion is, my mindset, my belief, is that I'm suffering because it's raining. Therefore, my suffering is the rain's fault. I blame the rain. And in my blame of the rain, because I think it's responsible for my pain and suffering, I withhold love from the rain. I essentially say the rain is stupid, the rain's dumb, the rain's being an asshole, blah, 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 blah. Where does forgiveness come in? Forgiveness comes in because I see a deeper truth that my suffering has nothing to do with the rain. I see that the rain doesn't have that sort of power over me to make me suffer, because my suffering is just a result in believing a narrative of separation. My suffering is the result of believing the narrative that says I'm less than because I didn't get what I wanted. I'm less than because I missed an experience I was looking forward to. And I gave all sorts of silly meanings to that experience in the future that said, if only I did X, Y, Z, then I would be whole and complete. And now that I didn't get there, I'm not whole and complete. So it's the fault of whatever was in my way of getting there. But what I recognize through growth and awareness is that my suffering is not a result of what is or is not in the world. It's a result of me believing my own silly mental nonsense. And in recognizing this, that I'm not suffering because of the rain, I look at the rain and I say, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I spent all this time blaming you, criticizing you, thinking you should be different, thinking that you shouldn't exist because I thought you made me suffer. But what I see now very clearly is that you didn't make me suffer at all. You were just being what you are, and you're free to be what you are. In fact, it's important to be what you are, even if I sometimes think it's something other than what I want. The truth of the matter is, for life to be life, there has to be rain. So it almost doesn't matter what I want. You see where the forgiveness comes in. The forgiveness comes in because I see the truth of the matter. And this forgiveness is a reclaiming of my own power. It's realizing that only I can make myself suffer. Now, initially that might be bad news, right? To see in some way how you're creating it, how you're responsible for it. And it's a super unpopular social commentary because a lot of people just can't see the depth of this discovery. But the more you see your own capacity to create suffering for yourself, then that also means you have the capacity to transform it, right? In contrast, if my suffering was created by the rain, then I'd have to wait for the rain to change in order for my experience to transform, which means I'm forever a prisoner of the rain. That's not liberation. That's hell, right? Something else outside of me is making me suffer. I'm a prisoner. I have no sovereignty. I have no power. And the liberation is seeing more of what's real and true. And again, at first it sucks because you have to take extraordinary accountability for your experience. You have to, not have to, you will, because it's just seeing that it's true and there's no other option, right? Like if I see through the illusion of blame, I see that it's impossible, right? It's like I can see that belief, not only does it not serve me, but I see that it's not true. Why would I keep believing it if I also see that it's not true? You won't. Granted, there may be a momentum in that belief where there's a pattern that wants to keep believing that because that's what you've been taught. But as you keep paying attention to it, as you become more aware that that pattern plays out, you can watch it. And every time it plays back, you just bring some more sanity to it. This is almost like holding a loving space for your own patterns, for your own conditioned mindsets. It's not so much that they have to change right away and immediately. It's that there's an opportunity to work with them to help them transform over time, which is often a misconception that people have. They think that it should just automatically change. Like you see the truth of it and then you don't have to deal with it anymore. No, it took a lifetime to develop that pattern. And so it's going to take some time. It's going to take some moments of holding space for it to help it unwind itself. And that's a journey that you go on. But the beauty here, again, is also seeing the pattern more clearly, which is also releasing your judgment for the pattern, right? just because there's that pattern that doesn't see reality clearly, that doesn't mean you have to suffer over that. It doesn't mean you're less than. It doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're missing something. It's not a problem. This is your opportunity. This is what you're going to bring transformation to. And it's going to take a little bit of time. But the value in that transformation is totally worthwhile. When you see the degree of difficulty and suffering it brings, it becomes really important to give it your heartfelt attention so it transforms. Okay, there's a lot more that I could talk about this, but we're going to wrap it up and switch to the Q&A section of the program. So we'll just see if there's anyone watching live. And if you have any questions, now would be the time to put them in. You can ask questions about anything I'm talking about, or you can ask me to speak about something else. Lisa, I see your question. I have faith that you will figure that out. Perry Sia asks, can you speak a little bit more about the truth of forgiveness? Well, is there anything specific about the truth of forgiveness that you'd like me to dive into? Because it's honestly something I can speak days on. But as you question my question and response, let's see what comes up for me. You know, all of these qualities, whether it's forgiveness, unforgiveness, whether it's letting go, whether it's resentment and jealousy, whether it's compassion, whether it's judgment, whether it's kindness or unkindness. Do you see how these in some way are polarities of each other? Gosh, this is so profound to me. We can get so easily caught up into thinking that we need to capture or avoid one end of the polarity, right? We say that I should be more loving and I should be less afraid. I should be more compassionate and I should be less judgmental. And there's 100 to 10,000 shoulds and should nots. But all of these expressions, which are also delineations of fear and love, are simply expressions of either seeing more of what's true or seeing a lie and believing in the lie. And I say that to invite the realization that it's not about capturing these qualities. It's not about making a list of I should be this and I shouldn't be that. It's about a heartfelt devotion that's deeply interested in seeing more of what's true. Right? This is a transformation of your heart. From one aspect, we live a life that's afraid of not getting what we want, which is living from fear. And then in another way, we live a life that is deeply interested in what's real, which is almost loosely letting go of what we think we want. And we realize, okay, I'm not so much here to get something, I'm here to see something. And when you're here to get something, it implies you're missing something. So there's already separation there, which implies you're going to see a lot of what's not true. And in seeing a lot of what's not true, you're going to get that delineation of fear, which is jealousy, resentment, judgment, and on and on and on, right? You'll get the negative aspect. You'll get the pain response. Now, if you see that you're here to see something, which is like an openness, you're more available and interested in seeing what's true. It's almost like you become devoted to the truth of life, speaking in some sort of spiritual or religious context. We could also say you're devoted to God. Same thing. In that mindset, you're much more available to see what's real and true. You're much more curious about your experience. You're much more humble about your experience. And in that state, you learn more. And you'll notice this probably in your human journey thus far. I mean, especially if you're listening to this kind of content, you've already experienced some degree of growth that has allowed you to experience more love and less fear, allowed you to experience more wholeness and less separation. That's only been a result of seeing more of what's true. And so this path of discovery in some way is already happening. And the invitation isn't to make it happen. The invitation is to become more available within yourself to allow it to happen, which is also maybe an expression of just being more honest with yourself. It's bringing a deeper awareness to the experiences you are having and being more vigilant about what you think is happening, being more curious. And this just creates more and more openness and less closeness, which again is being open to more love and being open to less fear. Oh, I love it. Nicole says, I have pleaded with my family to go to therapy with me to work on these patterns of illusion. How do I accept and work on it with them if they don't go? I love that question, Nicole. Thank you. Okay. Here's the assumption that's going to make this way more difficult than it needs to be. The assumption is for me to work through these illusions, or for me to experience more of what I crave, love, compassion, and freedom, then I need somebody else to do the work as well. I need somebody else to change rather than me just change. Do you see the blame that happens here? Now, I'm not saying that an invitation for group exploration is wrong or bad. There can definitely be the invitation. But if there's an energy of demand or should, or I can't transform without it, then you're blaming that thing on the outside. And in this case, could be blaming the family. Saying, if only they did X, Y, Z, then I could experience the transformation I'm looking for. This puts us in a position of powerlessness, or at least less power. This is no different from the example of the rain, where I experience patterns of suffering because it's raining. And then I say to the rain, hey, if you come to therapy with me, maybe you can learn how to not rain so much. And then I can experience more peace. Right? So I need you to change. I need you to be different so that I can experience what I want to experience. And I know that's kind of a crude example, but I feel like it points to something really profound, because in one way you can see how silly that is, right? Dear rain, please come to therapy with me so we can figure out how I can have a better experience. When really my experience as a human being, as much as it might look like it's influenced by somebody else, and I totally get that it looks that way. I totally get how what might appear to be shitty experiences is somehow creating our shitty internal experience. But again, just like Viktor Frankl's example with the man's search for meaning, he could very easily, tell all the guards and all the other prisoners, hey, let's all do a group therapy. Then I can somehow figure out how to be free. Now, if that happens, great. But at the same time, it could happen and you could still give your power away and nothing changes. Likewise, it could not happen and you can still experience transformation and everything changes. And I understand, especially if one hasn't experienced maybe a transformation that might be that huge, how that seems like an impossibility. But again, you can look at Viktor Frankl's example and say that's an impossibility. For me, it points to a bit of faith and trust in the underlying dynamic of this whole transformation. It points to a profundity of this miracle of being human. And so, yeah, extend the invitation. Not from a place of judgment, maybe from a place of, I'm inviting you to come because I feel like it might be helpful for me. I don't know if it would be helpful for you, but it seems like it might be helpful for me if you come so that I can work through these painful illusions. Now, if you put that on somebody else and say that they have painful illusions, do you think they're going to be more open to come with you? No. There's all different ways to approach that. One that would push them away, and other ways that would invite their support without demanding their support, while also being totally open to them not participating. Right? There's a really profound inner shift that lets go of people in that way. Right? Like, even like say in an intimate relationship dynamic, like I might tell somebody, hey, I would really appreciate it if we could hang out this evening. I know that I don't need it, but there's a sincerity of interest. And so I can express that sincerity of interest while also letting go of the outcome. Right? Like, because if I'm holding on to the outcome, then I'm like hiding behind that outcome. Right? Maybe it's best for me that I am alone this evening so that I can deal with why that seems so difficult. So I don't have to try and use other people to hide behind them if they do what I want, so that I don't have to experience my own painful patterns, which is super common. Oh, Linda, thank you for the donation. Forgot about donations. Nitin says to step out of our narrative or mindset more and more is to see it clearly as a witness every time. I'm not going to say every time. I'm going to say see it when you can see it, because there will be times when you don't see it. And the times that you don't see it and it plays itself out, can you see it in hindsight? And if you can see it in hindsight, can you forgive yourself quickly for the misunderstanding and learn from it in hindsight? Often what people do is they say, okay, I'm going to be awake and I'm going to pay attention to all these patterns, but yet the pattern will play out without your awareness, and then you'll judge yourself for it, right? Because you didn't get what you wanted, rather than using that too as an opportunity to learn. That also brings a deep humility, right? It kind of shows you how important it is we pay attention. It's like, oh man, that got through again. And then you can question, okay, well, what led to it this time? What was the trigger? Okay, if this happens again, if I experience this trigger, what are different ways that I can approach it, right? It's like you're working with this pattern. You're not trying to get rid of the pattern because you judge it. You're trying to understand it. You're trying to see it more clearly. And the way that you see it more clearly is to see where you don't see it clearly, which means it's going to play out. Now, if you judge yourself for it, that's again pushing it away. And if you push it away, you won't take the time to look into it. This is transforming your relationship with the pattern. It's not getting rid of the pattern. Just like in life, You're transforming your relationship with life. You're not changing life. Just with your journey of self-transformation, you're not getting rid of yourself. You're transforming the relationship you have with yourself. And this transforming of relationship is just transforming how you see, right? It's transforming the mindset. We have to see clearly that I'm experiencing how I see this. So that's what transforms. What transforms is how I see. It's not the thing that transforms. The thing appears to transform because how I see it transforms. The rain transforms because I see it in a different way. I see it in a fearful way, which creates suffering. Now I see it in a loving way, which creates liberation. Right? And the assumption is the rain will be something other than what it is. That will be the transformation. No. The transformation is a complete reframe of how you see. And as you change how you see, your whole world changes. More donations coming in. Thank you, lovelies. All right, we're going to switch gears here and do the guided meditation. Super short and sweet. And if you're going to hang out with me and do that, great. You can even just send donations during that time. That would be appreciated. Or not, and you're still loved. Okay, what's the topic of this meditation? I got to think of a topic that would be good for SEO. Change your mindset from fear to love. Yeah. Guided meditation. Okay, we'll do that. Change your mindset from fear to love. Or from hell to heaven. Thanks, Rima, for the donation. Thanks, Jennifer. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to take a few moments and allow ourselves to come home and connect with an opportunity to transform our mindset from fear to love. Let's settle in. Let's invite ourselves into this moment. I love this opportunity to take just a few minutes and start over. I'm going to invite you to take 3 deep breaths. And as you do, let each breath be a deeper opportunity to start brand new. Let this moment become empty. Let's breathe. as we rest here in this moment. As we rest here in this moment, I invite you to see that everything means nothing at all. There's an emptiness. There's 1,000 different stories you could tell about this moment. Yet none of those stories are actually happening. You could say it means this, that, or the other. And yet all of those meanings aren't really out there. Feel into that emptiness. See that there's no place for the mind to land. It's just thinking and thinking and thinking. Naturally, this just invites us into a deeper relaxation. And now that we are rested in this emptiness, this stillness, I invite a playful examination of your life. Can you recognize that this emptiness is always there? Can you recognize that we're constantly telling stories? We're constantly projecting meaning not really there. And all the while, as we travel through this emptiness, what we are experiencing are our stories, our projections, our mindset. And this mindset that we might be with is either turning everything into a problem or turning it into an opportunity. It's saying that this that is happening is somehow against you, or this that is happening is somehow for you. This is either a problem that should not be, or this is an opportunity for me to see something more profound. This is an opportunity to hide and run away, or this is an opportunity to learn and grow. This is either a problem that means I'm not enough, or this is an opportunity for me to see that I am enough. You see the profound difference here. There's a mindset that's trapped in fear, turning everything into a problem, imagining monsters not really there. And then there is a mindset that opens itself up to the adventure. A mindset that honors the beauty of what you are. A mindset that honors the opportunity you've been given. A mindset that's willing to learn and grow. And it's worthwhile mentioning of all the struggle and the difficulty you experience in your life journey, How much of a role does this mindset play? How much of the struggle and difficulty is a result of believing you're not enough? Is the result of believing you're missing something? Is the result of believing you don't deserve something? How much is the struggle fueled by what we might call a poor and fear-based mindset? And if we don't want to see that, how much are we blaming the world and other people? If we can see this clearly, it presents a profound opportunity to get in touch with the power of transforming your mindset. To see yourself, others, in life with brand new eyes. And to connect with a deeper opportunity to learn and grow. Can you breathe in to that opportunity? Can you be open to such a transformation? Let's take 3 more deep breaths and breathe into our willingness to transform our mindset, our openness for it to transform. And then from that space of openness, we'll continue on in our lives, seeing the opportunities where we can see them, and letting go of any judgment for when we do not. Let's breathe into that openness. My friend, this is the transformation from hell to heaven. It is the recognition that what you experience in life is to experience how you see life. It is to experience what you turn it into. And to deeply see this, you discover a capacity within you to turn life into a beautiful playground that allows you to discover something beautiful on the inside of what you are, and then share that beauty with the world. Thanks for meditating with me today. All righty, lovelies. Thank you so much. I appreciate your presence. Appreciate you showing up. And we will be back next week with another exciting episode of Holding Space for Love to Be Seen. If you got any ideas for topics, send me a message. Let me know. Till next time, aloha, and cheers to the beauty that you already are.